After Pho Dinh Hac angrily blurted out a breakup, I didn't say another word. Quietly pregnant, I bought a ticket in the middle of the night to leave the city. The kind of man who only thinks about his ex. Sorry, I don't need him.
Mom, where's my dad?
Your dad sacrificed himself.
What is sacrificed?
It means he died, son. In a city, everyone knew how volatile and unapproachable Pho Dinh Hac was. Only with me was he ever a gentle and caring brother. But from the moment his ex returned, everything changed. One breakup sentence, and I disappeared for 5 years. Meanwhile, he went crazy looking for me for 5 whole years. Until one day, he knelt in the cold rain.
Kai-tin, I was wrong. Even if you only see me as a substitute, I accept it. Please don't push me away anymore.
In the bathroom, I stared at the pregnancy test with 2 bright red lines in my hand. My heart ached to the point of numbness. This time, I didn't intend to turn back. In the bathroom, I gripped the test tightly. The 2 red lines were glaringly clear. Was I really pregnant? If it were before, I would have been happy enough to run immediately to tell Pho Dinh Hac. But now my heart was just a chaotic mess of anxiety. I gently stroked my lower abdomen and sighed. I didn't know what he would think if he knew about this. Honestly, I wasn't sure of anything anymore. Stepping out of the bathroom, I walked to the living room. On the wall, the clock showed nearly 2 a.m. 7.5 minutes until 2 o'clock. Pho Dinh Hac still hadn't returned. I had lost count of how many times he had been away from home since Shin Mingyu returned to the country. He and I had been together for over 3 years. As for that white Moonlight name that was etched in his heart, I never cared, nor was I ever afraid. I used to think I was special. I have something to tell you tonight. What time will you be back? Can you reply to my message? Are you really not planning to come home? Each message drifted into the void with no reply. The first message I sent was at 3 p.m. The last one was half an hour ago, past 1 a.m. The last bit of expectation within me slowly died with every passing minute. Nu, Jupvik miss, why don't you go upstairs and rest first? No need, I'll wait for him. Don't worry about me. The night was long, so cold that curling up wasn't enough to keep warm. I sat in the living room, wearing only a thin shirt, determined not to sleep. I did nothing, just sat silently like that. I didn't know if I was waiting for Pho Dinh Hac or waiting for myself to completely fall out of love with him. Memories of happy days together flooded my mind one by one. Every scene was so clear it made my nose sting. At 3:30 a.m., the sound of a car engine finally echoed outside the villa. His voice rang out from behind the door.
Why aren't you asleep yet?
I rubbed my hands, numb from the cold, intending to say something to Pho Dinh Hac, but the words choked in my throat. I couldn't swallow them, nor could I speak them. Where did you go? I asked, my voice very light. His gaze swept past me like a breeze, not stopping for even a second, answering perfunctorily.
Busy with some company matters.
Just hearing it, I knew it was an excuse. I had called his secretary beforehand. There was no busy work. I squeezed my fingertips, trying to stay calm. Was work really that busy? Pho Dinh Hac's mind was in a mess right now. Not because of my question, but because the words he heard from Shin Mingyu a few months ago still haunted him. Nu, Tham Mong Vu, Hoi Tuong, I met Kai-tin's ex-boyfriend when I was abroad. He looks quite a bit like you. I don't mean anything by it, it's just that people tend to love the same type, right? Maybe Kai-tin. Oh, never mind, don't overthink it. At that time, he didn't dare ask me, only secretly had someone investigate. And, true to Mingyu's words, that man did indeed have some resemblance to him. Thinking of Kai-tin's first reaction when meeting him years ago, Pho Dinh Hac's self-esteem felt trampled.
You wouldn't understand company matters.
After saying that, Pho Dinh Hac walked straight upstairs, not bothering to stop for a second, nor wanting to explain anything further. I let out a cold, mocking laugh. Then that day, the day we were to register our marriage, what was the reason for your absence? I finally asked the question that had always been buried deep in my heart. It turned out that from that day on, the feelings between us had silently changed color. Pho Dinh Hac paused, then deliberately avoided answering directly as usual.
I went to meet a client, I told you.
I stood up from the sofa, my eyes never leaving his tall figure on the stairs. Meeting a client? You didn't even have a few minutes to register our marriage? In the past, you did so many crazy things for me. When you were pursuing me, just to see me once, you dared to stand up a whole group of clients. I don't believe you missed that important registration just for a client meeting. I had remained silent and hadn't asked, just to wait and see if he would give me a proper explanation.
Kaitin, have you really thought it through? Do you want to marry me?
I bit my lip tightly, my throat feeling constricted, trying to keep my voice from trembling. Last time you didn't come to the cinema, it was because of Shin Mingyu's call, right? I didn't answer his question. I didn't need to. Because I knew not just about the cinema, but all the times he broke promises, was suddenly busy, or disappeared without explanation. I knew exactly where he went. I was just stubborn, pretending not to know. Like today, I needed to hear him say it himself. After a long silence, he finally spoke.
I promised her older brother that I would take care of her.
My chest throbbed with pain so intense I couldn't breathe. But I still tried to appear calm, forcing myself not to shed tears. These past days, you've been at the hospital with her every night, haven't you?
Kaitin, do you really have to be so petty about these things?
I smiled bitterly and shook my head. Between her and me, you can only choose one. My hand unconsciously placed itself on my belly, the child I hadn't yet had the chance to tell him about. I stood there waiting for him to say his final answer. But Pho Dinh Hac just frowned, his eyes growing cold as if I were making a fuss over nothing. He didn't say a word, just lifted his feet and continued upstairs, leaving me with the sound of my heart cracking bit by bit. That night, Pho Dinh Hac slept in the study, and I lay in the bedroom, tossing and turning all night, unable to sleep. Tears quietly overflowed from the corners of my eyes, falling onto the pillow drop by drop, unwipered. I suddenly remembered my parents. The few memories remaining from my childhood were faded, but the one thing I couldn't forget was that they argued constantly. Nam, ba kai tin, hoi tuong, if we can't live together anymore, let's divorce. Nu, mi kai tin, hoi tuong, I'd rather die than divorce. Don't even think about letting that woman step into this house. In the end, my mother truly held on until death. Both of them died in a car accident. The next morning, as I walked downstairs, I vaguely heard him talking on the phone.
How is Mingyu? Okay, I'm coming right away.
My eyes immediately turned cold. Her again. He was preparing to go to the hospital for Shin Mingyu again. He didn't need to say anything more. The answer he didn't give me last night, I got it today, through this very action. I stood still in the living room, my voice strangely calm, but every word felt like a slash to my heart. If you go to the hospital, we break up. Pho Dinh Hac looked up, his eyes meeting mine. The doctor's voice reporting that Mingyu's condition had worsened still echoed in his ear.
Before he died, Shin Yanqing, her brother, entrusted his sister to me. I can't not go. Kaitin, stop making a scene, will you?
I didn't scream, didn't cry, didn't raise my voice. I just repeated it one more time, calmly to the point of being chilling. If you go, we break up. He froze for half a second, then shouted coldly.
Break up then.
Slam. The sound of him closing the door rang out like thunder, chilling the entire large villa. I sat down on the steps, buried my face in my hands, and sobbed uncontrollably. The pain overflowed, bursting like a broken dam. I comforted myself, whispering chokingly. It's okay, it's okay, it's okay, baby, Mom will take you away from here. I tried to wipe the tears from my face, but they wouldn't stop falling. The more I wiped, the messier it got, soaking my cheeks. I stumbled back to the bedroom, sat in front of the vanity, and forced myself to calm down. I touched up my makeup, then went to the closet and pulled out 2 large suitcases that had gathered dust in the corner. I didn't take much. Everything Pho Dinh Hac bought for me, I left behind. Before leaving, I took off the ruby ring on my middle finger and placed it gently on the vanity. That engagement ring, now that the wedding wasn't happening, what was the point of keeping it? Just as I pulled the suitcase to the door, Auntie Wang walked over in a panic. Nu, Divong Miss Kaitin, where are you going? If the young master comes back and sees you gone, he will be very worried. I forced a smile, my hand still gripping the suitcase handle tight. He won't be. Because he already chose Shin Mingyu. I would leave with dignity. No noise, no clinging. At the hospital, the attending physician announced that her condition was under control. Hearing this, Pho Dinh Hac breathed a sigh of relief, but the frustration in his heart had not yet dissipated. He and Kai Tin had just argued, a rare occurrence that had never happened before.
Call me if there's anything. I have matters at the company. I'm leaving first.
New Tham Mong Vu brother Hac, can you stay a little longer? I'm really scared. Being here all alone. Seeing him preparing to leave, Shin Mingyu frantically grabbed his sleeve. Looking at the person in front of him, Pho Dinh Hac suddenly thought of the woman at the villa. Kai Tin minded Shin Mingyu so much. Could it be because she still had some feelings for him in her heart?
There are doctors and nurses here. It's fine. They will take care of you. I'm pulling my hand back. I'm leaving.
Pho Dinh Hac returned to the company, burying himself in work for 3 straight days. Until he finally returned to the villa. Before returning, he even asked the female employees in the company for advice, then bought a car full of things. Things girls like fresh flowers, filling up the trunk. As soon as he stepped into the living room, it was empty. There was no sign of her in the garden either. She must be upstairs. At this hour, Kai Tin usually lay on the chaise lounge on the balcony, lazily sunbathing. He gently pushed the door open, but the bedroom was also empty. Pho Dinh Hac's heart turned cold. He rushed to the study, nothing. Bathroom, dressing room, no one seen. A sense of unease rose. Something was missing. On the vanity, the ruby ring lay silently, its red glint reflecting coldly. That was the ring he proposed to her with. From the day he put it on her hand, she had never taken it off. She was truly gone. In C-City, I sat on the rocking chair by the floor-to-ceiling window. Sunlight pierced through the glass into the room, gentle and warm. My parents died early, and I wasn't the type to be good at business. Before my grandfather passed away, he handed the company management to third uncle, leaving me some shares and a few assets. This small villa was one of the keepsakes my grandfather left behind. New on Tin Girl, are you really planning to give birth to the baby alone? This is my child. There are no ties left between me and that man. I decided to give birth only because I love this child. I thought very carefully before making that decision. I can give my child a fulfilling life. I can give my child all the love I have. My belly was nearly 5 months along, slightly protruding. One glance was enough to know I was pregnant. My best friend on Tin sat beside me, peeling an apple while fuming on my behalf. New on Tin, seriously, that bastard. It's too much. When he was chasing you, he gifted antiques worth tens of millions, even learned to bake cakes. And now, he's utter trash. The name Pho Dinh Hac was like a sharp blade. Every time it was mentioned, it carved a line across my heart, painful enough to stop my breath. I looked down, rubbing my belly gently, skillfully changing the subject. I want to eat the apple, you're peeling too slow. On Tin moved her hands faster, but her mouth wouldn't stop muttering. New on Tin, I'm going very fast already. Pregnancy made me start having backaches, sleeping a lot, and having frequent nightmares. Tonight I dreamed of Pho Dinh Hac again. At first, it was a beautiful dream. Shin Mingyu didn't return to the country, and he was still gentle with me as always. Nam, Trong Mo Kai Tin, love is real. You can't live in the shadow of your childhood forever. We got married. On the day of registration, he arrived very early, waiting at the gate of the Civil Affairs Bureau. Not long after, I gave birth to a healthy, quick-witted baby. But then the dream took a sudden turn. Pho Dinh Hac became irritable, started losing his temper with me, and was frequently away from home. Nam, Trong Mo, I've told you many times. I owe the Shin family. I have to take care of Shin Mingyu. Kai Tin, can't you understand me? New, Trong Mo, I can't understand. Our child is sick too, I need you too. The baby needs a father. In the dream, I went mad, just like my mother years ago. I screamed, struggled with him, used both hands to hug his arm tightly, not letting him step out the door. His phone rang continuously. I knew clearly it was Shin Mingyu calling. Nam, Trong Mo, I have to go to the hospital. Kai Tin, don't be unreasonable. I lunged to snatch the phone from his hand. Tears streamed down like rain, drop after drop falling endlessly. I even fell to my knees, begging him not to go. But he still turned his back and walked away. I watched that back, suddenly feeling like I had returned to the past, to the moment when I was 8, watching my father angrily slam the door and leave. Pho Dinh Hac's back coincided strangely with my father's back in my memory. Pho Dinh Hac. Pho Dinh Hac. Pho Dinh Hac. I whispered his name, waking up with sweat soaking my forehead. It wasn't until I recognized the familiar furniture in the room that I understood it was just a dream. But because it was so real, tears still pooled in the corners of my eyes. Everything in the dream, I remembered vividly. In the dream, he chose Shin Mingyu once again and abandoned me. Time passed so quickly. More than 4 months later, on a hot summer day, I gave birth to a son. I named him Kai-duk, called Enon at home. In this world, besides my third uncle and cousin, I finally had a relative who belonged only to me. New, Tin, oh my God, look at him, he's wrinkled like a little monkey. Tin shrieked and laughed loudly, but hugged in into her chest like a treasure. New, Tin, I declare right now, I have to be the godmother. I worked as a comic artist. The work could be done entirely from home. Before having an I didn't like going out. After having the baby, there was even less reason to step out the door. Enon had a weak constitution, possibly because I was frequently tired and emotionally unstable during pregnancy. I hired 2 nannies to take turns caring for him, plus Tin occasionally running over to help, so things gradually stabilized. Life continued like that until Enon turned 5 and started kindergarten. New, Tin, you taking Enon back to a city like this, what if you get recognized? Tin sat on the salon chair, frowning as she spoke. My cousin is getting married, and besides, I can't hide in Sea City forever. Third uncle called to invite us, saying the whole family has to attend my cousin's wedding. I also want to take Enon back to visit for a few days. But seeing my son sitting small on the sofa, hugging a teddy bear twice his size, I couldn't help but feel guilty. Saying I wasn't worried about meeting Pho Dinh Hac again was a lie. When Enon was born, his face was wrinkled and looked like no one, but as he grew, every feature clearly resembled him to a heartbreaking degree. I often stared blankly at my son, unconsciously remembering the days in a city. Nom, Enon, Mom, where is a city? It's where Mom grew up. I replied softly. Enon climbed down from the sofa, taking small steps toward me, nodding as if he understood. But then he looked up and asked, Nom, Enon, so is Dad also in a city, Mom? The word Dad made me freeze. I had never told him about his father. Since he learned to speak, he had never asked about his dad either. And why do you think Dad is in a city? Nom, Enon, because Huin's parents go together every day to pick her up. Enon is big now. I'm starting to understand that a dad is something that should exist in every family. But our house only has Mom. Nom, Enon, Mom, why doesn't our house have a dad? Seeing my silence, Enon called out again, softly and coaxingly. I knew sooner or later he would ask. I couldn't let Enon grow up feeling different from other children. I pulled him into my arms, gently rubbed his head, and slowly spoke. Enon, you have a dad too. It's just that Dad can't appear anymore. Nom, Enon, why can't Dad appear? His big round eyes blinked at me, full of confusion and bewilderment. I took a breath, trying to suppress the lump in my throat, then smiled gently. Because your dad sacrificed himself. Nom, Enon, what is sacrificed? Enon was only 5 years old. He couldn't fully understand the concept of death yet. I thought sometimes a white lie is better than the truth. Rather than letting him know his father was a terrible person, it was better to let him gradually understand the meaning of loss, of death. Sacrificed means he passed away, he can't be seen anymore, can never be met again. Nom, Enon, Mom, you aren't allowed to die. Enon wants to see Mom every day. Hearing him say that, I was stunned. I thought Enon would cry, sulk, or even question why he didn't have a dad like his friends. But no, he said these words. I hugged him a little tighter, my heart softening, and smiled faintly. Don't worry, Enon will see Mom for a very long time. Enon reached out to tug on the hem of my shirt, his voice childish but firm. Nom, Enon, Mom must not leave Enon. I smiled, but when my gaze fell, my heart felt a flash of emptiness as I inadvertently thought of that man. My childhood only had my father's cold back. I understood too well how a complete family influences a child. "And doesn't have a dad, are you sad?" The little boy in my arms didn't hesitate, shaking his head decisively. "Nom, and not sad. Having mom is enough." To him, a dad was just a part of the concept of family. And what he saw was just Huin's dad picking her up from school every day. Other than that, he didn't seem to do much. During the National Day holiday, the kindergarten had a long break, so I took in and back to a city. When getting off the plane, I wrapped him up tight, mask, cap, oversized hoodie. I was just afraid someone would recognize us. I had heard on Tin mention in passing that Pho Dinh Hac seemed to still be looking for news of me over these past years. "Nom, Kai then and come here, you have a big red envelope from Uncle." "Nom, and thank you, Uncle." As soon as we met Kai then, my cousin, he immediately stuffed a bright red envelope into Ann's hand. "Cousin, he doesn't lack money," I reminded him in a low voice. "Nom, Kai then this is Uncle's heart, not about the money." My cousin laughed, rubbing Ann's head, his eyes full of affection. Not far away, Jong Trakvu stood leaning against the railing, watching while sneakily pulling out his phone to snap a picture. Then he immediately sent it to the classmate group chat. "Nom, Jong Trakvu, I swear that woman looks a lot like Kai Tin." Because he stood quite far away, he couldn't hear the content of the conversation. And I was wearing a hat covering my head, speaking in a low voice. He wasn't sure, only guessing based on how close Kai then was with me. The group chat instantly exploded with a series of messages. "Liar, based on what did you recognize her?" "I also see it's a woman. At this distance, even if Pho Dinh Hac came in person, he might not recognize her." Amidst the string of humorous messages, only one line made everyone fall silent simultaneously. "Pho Dinh Hac, I'm coming." "Nom, Jong Trakvu even know the place?" Jong Trakvu scratched his head, not understanding why Pho Dinh Hac knew the location so well. But Pho Dinh Hac didn't message anything more. He had anticipated that if Kai then got married, Kai Tin would definitely come. And he had long had people secretly monitoring both the airport and the wedding venue. As soon as she showed her face, someone would report it immediately. "Nom, and mom, so much food." Anan lit up, his eyes shining as if lamps had been turned on inside them. The table was full of dishes I normally wouldn't let him touch. I nodded, not stopping him. Normally, I strictly controlled his diet because of his weak constitution, but today, I'd make an exception. "Nom, and mom, and wants to drink with a straw." "All right, mom will ask the waiter to get one for you." Just as I stood up, the smile hadn't yet faded when it froze on my lips. That man, it was still that face, only now he had added a few degrees of maturity and calmness compared to 5 years ago. He stood about 3 meters away from me, neither far nor near. His burning gaze didn't dodge a bit, stopping intensely on me. Reflexively, I blocked in slightly with my body, not wanting him to see the child. "Nom, and mom, why are you standing still?" A small voice rang out from behind, causing Pho Dinh Hac to immediately look over. His gaze fell on the little boy huddled behind me. Before coming here, he had heard that Kai Tin got off the plane with a child. He had assumed people were mistaken. He didn't expect her to actually bring a child. And that boy called her mom. The answer was as clear as day, yet it choked in his throat, unable to be uttered. I tried to maintain a calm appearance, but my trembling hands betrayed everything. This encounter was truly too unexpected. Both he and I stood rooted to the spot. Neither took a step forward. Time seemed frozen in that moment. "Nom, and mom, and wants to drink with a straw." Anan poked his head out from behind my back, tugging at my shirt as if to pull me out of the tense silence. I squeezed his hand tight, not daring to let go or move a step.
"Let me get it."
Pho Dinh Hac spoke first, turning to walk toward the waiter. He wasn't afraid I would run. From the moment I returned to a city, fate had already arranged this encounter. He came back very quickly, bending down to hand the straw to Anan. I stared at that motion, my mind left with only one thought. It's over. Everything is truly over. "Nom, and mom, can I accept the straw that uncle gave?" Anin looked up, his round eyes looking at me, his voice hesitant. He didn't recognize him, but still remembered my warning not to take things from strangers. Pho Dinh Hac looked up at me, his eyes containing a multitude of emotions. Mostly, it was the joy of finding what was once lost, mixed with cautious fear of not knowing if he would be forgiven. And you can't drink too much milk, just for today, okay? My first reaction was a bit cruel to the child. Anin froze, clearly not understanding why Mom suddenly wouldn't let him drink anymore. Nom, Anin, but yesterday Mom said drinking lots of milk makes you tall? Anin is big now, you have to learn to drink milk without a straw. I tried to keep my voice gentle, but my heart tightened with every beat. Pho Dinh Hac understood I was trying to prevent the child from interacting with him, at least right now. From afar, Kai then saw Pho Dinh Hac appear and jumped. For years, he had been secretly asking about my whereabouts, and every time he was brushed off. My cousin didn't expect this sudden face-to-face encounter in real life.
We need to talk.
Pho Dinh Hac's voice rang out, low and deep. There's nothing to talk about. I refused bluntly. Since I chose to break up back then, everything should be decisive. There had long been no connection between him and me.
Anin is my child, only mine. No one has the right to take him.
Saying these words in front of the child wasn't good. His voice dropped, but every word carried suppressed pressure, clearly a blatant threat. I glared at him, but finally had to compromise, handing Anin to third uncle to watch over, then following him to the staircase area. Say what you want to say quickly. I frowned, unable to hide my impatience.
The child is mine, right?
His eyes looked at me full of expectation, almost begging for confirmation. Even if I said no, he wouldn't believe it. Mentioning the child made me feel guilty, but remembering the past events, I answered bluntly, my voice without hesitation. No. I understood Pho Dinh Hac too well. Just looking at his reaction, I knew he was already certain Anin was his.
The boy is our son.
He said it like stating an obvious fact. I almost laughed out of anger. Pho Dinh Hac, where do you get that confidence? Where do you get the nerve to say that sentence? Just met, and you're claiming the child like this? As if the person who asked for the breakup back then wasn't you.
Before, I was wrong. After you left, I looked for you for a long time. These past years, I truly missed you very much.
He took a step forward, trying to close the distance between us. I immediately stepped back warily. I didn't think Pho Dinh Hac would be willing to bow his head and apologize like that. His temper was famous in the circle for being stubborn and bad. Before, when pursuing me, no matter how angry he made me, he never uttered a proper apology. At most, he bought gifts and shamelessly followed me until it was annoying. We already broke up.
I don't agree.
Hearing the words break up, he panicked. The thing he regretted most in his life was the day he opened his mouth to say those words to me. You were the one who said break up. You have no right to disagree. Seeing me so decisive, Pho Dinh Hac didn't continue mentioning getting back together. He fell silent for a few seconds, then asked,
Is the boy's name Anin?
It has nothing to do with you. Anin was my only weakness. If Pho Dinh Hac planned to fight for custody, it would be like taking my life.
Atin, you're hotter-tempered than before.
His voice softened, slightly tender mixed with a bit of grievance, as if he were sulking. I had never seen a Pho Dinh Hac like this, so I laughed coldly. Your face has gotten thicker lately. But he didn't get angry. He didn't dare lose his temper in front of me anymore. He was just afraid I would disappear again. This time, he would truly go insane.
Why didn't you tell me back then? Why did you quietly take Anin and leave like that?
Because the boy isn't your son. We already broke up. Why would I tell you? Now you want to claim the child? Keep dreaming. But Pho Dinh Hac seemed not to hear the answer, still persisting.
There's nothing between me and Shinmingyu. Atin, trust me.
As that familiar name rang out, the needle in my heart was twisted sharply by someone. I still remembered vividly how many times we argued because of her back then, and the last time was the irrevocable breakup. I took a deep breath, trying to suppress my emotions. Pho Dinh Hac, I don't care about those things anymore. Right now, I just want to live peacefully with Anin.
Don't care anymore? Does that mean you don't even care about him anymore?
Pho Dinh Hac's hand gently touched my finger, his voice hoarse.
I know I was wrong. Can you come back to me?
He didn't care about the substitute issue anymore. As long as I was willing to return, he accepted everything. I pulled my hand away without hesitation. We ended a long time ago. He lowered his head, not saying anything for a long time. I thought he had given up, so I turned to leave. But his voice choked up behind me.
Atin, I was wrong. Even if it's just as a replacement, that's fine too. Just don't push me away anymore.
I was stunned. I turned my head back, my eyes filled with disbelief. Pho Dinh Hac was actually crying. His eyes were red, tears silently sliding from the corners. His whole figure seemed cast in shadow, silent and pitiable. Before I could react, he pulled me into his arms. The familiar scent hit me, as if trying to pull me back to that past full of love and hurt.
Consider it me begging you. Give me a chance. That day when I came home and didn't find you, I regretted it to the point of madness. I shouldn't have argued with you. Shouldn't have said those hurtful words. From now on, I will never mention the substitute matter again. Don't be mad at me anymore, okay?
Pho Dinh Hac hugged me tightly, crying while saying a lot. My head was buzzing. It took a while for me to react. What substitute? Pho Dinh Hac, what are you talking about? He suddenly tightened his arms, hugging me so hard as if he wanted to merge me into his body. I tried to push him away. Let go first. He didn't budge, so I added. I'm not running away. Only then did Pho Dinh Hac let go. Looking at his red-rimmed eyes, my memories were momentarily pulled back to the past. What did you mean by substitute just now? I didn't understand. Pho Dinh Hac was extremely reluctant, finally uttering a name.
Back on to you, your ex-boyfriend.
He isn't my ex-boyfriend. I was stunned. Back on to you was my senior in high school. We had a pretty good relationship in high school, but in university, we gradually lost touch. A spark flashed in Pho Dinh Hac's dark eyes. He asked again nervously.
Did you used to like him?
I shook my head blankly, completely not understanding what he was asking. Why drag back onto you into the conversation all of a sudden? The corners of my lips curled up slightly, my watery eyes unconsciously becoming softer. Pho Dinh Hac pulled me into his arms again, whispering as if to himself.
Then you aren't allowed to like him in the future either.
I stood completely frozen. Was he crazy? I didn't understand a single word he said. After listening to Pho Dinh Hac explain for a while, I vaguely understood everything. It turned out he misunderstood that I agreed to be with him because I liked back onto you. And is still waiting for me.
I'll go with you.
Pho Dinh Hac pulled my hand, intending to walk inside. I threw his hand off, my voice cold. We haven't gotten back together.
I know.
He didn't hold my hand anymore, just silently followed behind. Returning to the banquet hall, Kai then came over with a glass of wine to toast, freezing slightly when he saw Pho Dinh Hac. Kai then shouldn't you be in France today? My cousin had clearly checked the schedule. If he knew Pho Dinh Hac would return, he wouldn't have let me return to a city even if it killed him. Pho Dinh Hac curled his lips in a sneer, his tone not polite at all.
Didn't you say you didn't know where Kai Tin went?
Kai then I really didn't know. This time Tin wanted to come back herself. He didn't bother arguing, his eyes glued to me, following closely. I was talking to third uncle when Anin pulled my hand saying he wanted to go to the bathroom. Just as I was about to leave, Pho Dinh Hac quickly ran to my side.
You said you wouldn't run anymore?
I walked without turning back. That was just now. He didn't hesitate, quickly stepping up to block my path, his face stern.
Kai Tin.
I frowned. I'm taking it into the bathroom. Anin looked back and forth between me and him, confused about what was happening. Pho Dinh Hac sighed in relief. At least I wasn't dragging the child away.
Let me take Anin to the men's room. It's inconvenient for you to go in.
When Anin was small, I had no choice. Every time he needed the bathroom, I had to take him into the women's room. This year, he started kindergarten, beginning to understand the difference between boys and girls. Since then, every time I took him, Anin looked up and asked me, Anin Mom, why do I have to go into the women's restroom? I'm a boy. I hesitated, looking down at his innocent face that didn't fully understand everything yet, and my heart softened. Anin Mom, Anin needs to pee. Anin tugged at my hand with one hand, the other holding his waistband, looking anxious.
Let me take the boy.
Pho Dinh Hac spoke up again. I sighed softly, feeling a bit swayed. Okay, you take in, I'll wait outside the door. I was afraid he would lead the child away, so I firmly stood guard in front of the restroom door. Nom and Mom, today I got to go into the men's room. Anin looked up at the figure symbol on the door, then turned back to look at me, cheering excitedly. Just that simple sentence made my nose sting. If I weren't in a public place, my tears probably would have fallen already. Jong Traek Vu was washing his hands when he saw Pho Dinh Hac leading a child into the restroom, freezing in place. Nam, Jong Traek Vu, Holy Mother. Old Pho, where did you get that kid? Kidnapped?
Not kidnapped.
He replied calmly, leading Anin inside. At first, Jong Traek Vu wondered whose child it was, but upon coming out the door, he saw me waiting in the hallway. His mind immediately spun. Could this be Kai Tin's child? Pho Dinh Hac had no experience caring for children. Luckily, Anin was very independent. He knew how to use the toilet himself. He just needed someone to stand by and watch, then help him wash his hands. Nam, Anin uncle, are you Mom's friend? Anin looked up, his glistening eyes asking innocently.
Uncle is your mom's friend.
He really wanted to say your dad, but the words reached his lips and he had to swallow them. Not until I saw Anin being led out by him, clothes still neat, hair unruffled, did I relax my tightly knitted brows. Thank you.
Just doing what I should.
From the moment we stepped out of the restroom until the wedding ended, Pho Dinh Hac always walked silently behind me. A smile hung on the corner of his lips the whole way. I, however, couldn't smile at all. In the elevator, he probed.
Do you want to go back there to sleep tonight?
I knew which there he was referring to. Unable to hold back, I reminded him directly. Pho Dinh Hac, I never agreed to get back together with you. Nam and Mom, what is get back together? I paused. I never thought I'd have to explain this concept to him, nor did I want him to understand adult matters too early. Just as I was about to speak, Pho Dinh Hac opened his mouth first.
Kai Tin.
But before he could speak, I glanced at him with a warning look. He immediately shut his mouth. I bent down to rub my son's head, speaking softly. And we'll understand when you're a bit bigger. That night, and I slept at the Kai family home. I originally thought with Pho Dinh Hac's personality, he would cling relentlessly no matter what. I didn't expect him to agree so easily. I initially planned to stay in a city until the end of the National Day holiday, but not anymore. I changed my mind. I would leave tomorrow. The longer I stayed, the more trouble there would be. The next morning, I took Anin to say goodbye to third uncle and some relatives, then got in the car straight to the airport. Before getting out of the car, I carefully put masks on both of us. I didn't want to be recognized. The boarding time was getting closer, but my heart was surprisingly calm. It's almost time, Anin, let's go. Nam, Anin, yes. Anin trotted after me, holding my hand tightly. We quickly moved towards the boarding gate. Just as we were about to arrive, a familiar voice rang out from behind.
Kai Tin.
I didn't need to turn around to know who it was. I immediately picked Anin up intending to run, but Pho Dinh Hac still caught up a step ahead. Nam, Anin Mom, it's that uncle from yesterday. My face immediately darkened. I should have known it wouldn't be that easy.
You want to run away again?
Where I go is my right. Pho Dinh Hac looked at me and then at Anin in my arms, frowning. But finally, he let out a sentence.
Fine, you go.
I was stunned. Just like that? Afraid he would change his mind, I immediately hugged Anin and ran into the security checkpoint. Only when I sat in the seat on the plane did I truly feel relieved. Nam, Anin Mom, are you hiding from that uncle? I gently patted his back, coaxing softly. Don't be afraid, and we won't see that uncle again in the future. Anin leaned against my chest, looking up, his big eyes glistening like water. Nam and Anin isn't afraid. Anin likes that uncle. Uncle took me to the toilet. My heart skipped a beat. I lowered my head and asked cautiously, do you really like him? Anin nodded firmly, unable to hide his happiness. Nam, and I like him a lot. Yesterday, Uncle even peeled shrimp for me to eat. I suddenly felt confused. Was it just those small actions? Or was this what they called blood ties, the natural instinct of father and son? Nom and an uncle. I was still immersed in thought when Anin suddenly cheered. I looked up reflexively. Pho Dinh Hac appeared in my line of sight again.
Hello, Anin.
Pho Dinh Hac acted as if nothing had happened, sitting down in the seat next to me, even smiling slightly to greet Anin like a close acquaintance. I glanced at him, my face unable to hide the annoyance. Why are you on this flight? Where I go is my right. A feeling of unease suddenly rose in my heart. Sure enough, he had calculated everything, secretly buying a ticket on the same flight as us. Half an hour after takeoff, Anin leaned on my arm and fell fast asleep. My arm gradually went numb, losing almost all feeling, but I didn't dare move for fear of waking him. Pho Dinh Hac leaned in close, whispering in my ear.
How about waking the boy up? Your arm is numb.
I frowned. Anin already had a weak constitution and slept fitfully. How could we just wake him up? It was also mealtime. My arm was incapacitated, so I couldn't do anything, let alone eat. Without saying a word, Pho Dinh Hac picked up the food tray, scooped a spoonful of hot rice, and brought it to my mouth. The aroma of the food made my stomach churn, the discomfort becoming clearer. I'm not eating, take it away.
Eat a little.
I said I'm not eating.
The boy is a child of both of us. Caring for my child is also part of my responsibility.
I was truly very hungry, and his words weren't wrong. I lowered my head silently, opening my mouth to eat a spoonful of rice. Although unwilling, my stomach didn't know how to argue. Anin woke up, still groggy, looked up and saw the scene of Pho Dinh Hac feeding me. He opened his eyes wide, stammering out a word. Nom and Dad? That word was like a thunderbolt striking right by my ears. Pho Dinh Hac and I froze simultaneously. I turned to him, asking uncertainly, Anin, what did you just call him? He rubbed his eyes, yawned, and answered innocently. Nom, Anin Huin's dad also feeds her mom rice like that often. The corner of Pho Dinh Hac's lips immediately curled into a meaningful smile. He gently tugged at my sleeve. I immediately shoved my hand into my coat pocket, saying nothing but not denying it either. I started silently asking myself, does Anin really need a father? Can Pho Dinh Hac become a good father? The plane landed past 8:30 p.m. Before we even left the airport, Pho Dinh Hac's phone rang continuously. At first, he didn't intend to pick up, but the ringtone kept sounding again and again. I glanced over, already vaguely guessing. Answer it. He picked up the phone, his voice cold and distant.
What did the doctor say? I'm not in a city. I'll figure it out in a few days when I'm back. Message me if there's anything.
It was Shin Mingyu. I could almost confirm it was still her calling. It felt like a small stone dropped into my heart, not distinctly painful, but silently pressing down with a dull ache. Funny, really, there had long been no relationship between him and me. Her calling him had nothing to do with me. But I still couldn't hide the coldness gradually appearing on my face. He saw my expression darkening and immediately hung up hurriedly after a few short sentences. He raised his hand intending to grab mine, but I shook it off. I hugged Anin without saying a word, walking faster. I wanted to be decisive, to end it thoroughly.
Kaitin, wait for me.
He hurriedly chased after me, grabbing my wrist. I struggled free, but he held tighter.
Let go. Listen to me explain.
I don't want to hear it. I was still holding a child, couldn't run away, could only stand still with a cold face looking at him.
It was the hospital calling because she got sicker. There's nothing between me and her, just out of respect for her brother.
I've heard enough of these words. I interrupted, my voice cold as ice. I've heard those sentences countless times. But I couldn't bring myself to say harsher words. I was afraid Anin would hear.
Anin is still here. I'll let go.
My eyes met his. This time he lost. He let go first.
Let me carry on. He's heavy.
I didn't reply, just hugged my child tighter. My right arm was going numb. I pretended not to hear, stubbornly walking on. Children are always the most sensitive beings. Just then, Anin suddenly looked up, his small hand touching my face. Nom, Anin Mom, I can walk by myself. It's okay, Mom can carry you. I choked up. I was afraid if I opened my mouth for one more sentence, tears wouldn't be held back and would spill over. I truly felt I was too lucky. In a chaotic and hurtful world, I still had a child so obedient and understanding. Pho Dinh Hac shamelessly followed me to the door of my house, refusing to leave no matter what I said. I gritted my teeth, slamming the front door shut with a cold face right in front of him. Whether he starved or died of thirst out there had nothing to do with me. At most, he'd get a swollen face from mosquito bites in this season. Nom and Mom, is that uncle sleeping outside the door? Yeah. I placed it on the sofa. The moment I let go, my entire right arm, numb for hours, finally regained feeling. The little boy mumbled softly. Nom, and it's very hot outside, Mom. I bent down to change his slippers, conveniently kissing his forehead. That uncle has legs. If it's too hot, he can go somewhere else. Enin, hurry up and brush your teeth and go to sleep. Nom, and Mom isn't brushing teeth with Enin. Enin, be good. Mom has work in the study. Brush your teeth by yourself, okay? I had to fix a few spots in a client's drawing. During National Day, I wanted to get it done quickly so I could go sleep in my son's room. I thought we wouldn't be back this week, so I had given the helper an early holiday leave. Enin saw me go into the study, then quietly tiptoed to the main door. At that time, Pho Dinh Hac hadn't left yet. He worried that if I softened in the middle of the night and opened the door to find no one, I would be angry, so he sat silently on the steps. Unexpectedly, the person who opened the door was Enin. Nom and an uncle? Enin tilted his head, peeking out from behind the door. Pho Dinh Hac hurriedly bent down to look straight into his eyes.
Did Mom let you open the door?
Enin shook his head, enunciating clearly. Nom and I opened it secretly. Pho Dinh Hac frowned. A small child opening the door alone in the middle of the night was truly very dangerous.
Enin isn't allowed to open the door on his own. You know you could get kidnapped. Mom has warned you several times.
Enin sat down on the step next to him, his small legs swinging. Nom and then why did I still open the door? Faced with his question, the boy didn't answer immediately. He lowered his head to think for a moment, then spoke cautiously. Nom and an uncle, your dad, right? Pho Dinh Hac's heart felt squeezed. He tried to suppress his emotions, unable to say it without Kai Tin's permission. But Enin didn't give up. This time his gaze went straight to him, his voice full of certainty. Nom and an uncle is actually dad, right? Pho Dinh Hac still didn't answer. Enin continued whispering. Nom and I know uncle is dad. My godmother used to scold Pho Dinh Hac as a jerk. I also heard Mom call uncle by his real name. His throat tasted bitter. He wanted to justify something but didn't know where to start. He owed the mother and son too much. Kai Tin raising the child alone for 5 years, to put it nicely, it was resilience. Truthfully, only those who have been through it understand half of that hardship. For the first time in his life, Pho Dinh Hac felt helplessness not from the business world, but from the woman he once missed and the child calling him dad with clear eyes. Enin. My call echoed throughout the staircase. I ran down in panic, my heart a mess of fear and anger. From a distance, I clearly saw 2 figures, one large and one small, sitting on the doorstep. Nom and Mom. Enin hurriedly stood up, lowering his eyes as if he had done something incredibly wrong. I froze when I saw 2 red swollen mosquito bites on my son's arm. Anger flared up instantly. Pho Dinh Hac, did you teach my son to open the door? Look at his arm. Look how badly the mosquitoes bit him. He didn't refute. He was afraid if he spoke up, it would cause Enin to be scolded. He'd rather let me scold him than let his son be in a difficult spot. Enin lowered his head further, his voice as small as a mosquito's hum. Nom and it was me who opened it myself. Uncle didn't tell me to open the door. I gritted my teeth and pulled the boy's hand. How many times has Mom told you, don't open the door for strangers, remember? Nom and I'm sorry, Mom, but there were too many mosquitoes outside. I was afraid Uncle would get bitten. The more Enin defended him, the more panicked I felt. The boy didn't even know that man was his father yet. If one day he knew, would he choose to follow Pho Dinh Hac? I didn't dare think further. That night, he still stood in the yard downstairs. There were many mosquitoes, and the wind was strong. In less than half an hour, he had several red swollen bites on his wrist. Not until all the lights in the house were turned off did he silently leave. Not saying a word, not turning back, no apology, and no one seeing him off. Only the sound of insects and the lonely back of a father belatedly learning to grow up. For the next 2 days, I didn't see Pho Dinh Hac anywhere. That day when we got off the plane, he had answered Shin Mingyu's call. Perhaps he had returned to a city to be with her. Thinking of this, I felt my decision to lock him out that night was even wiser. I didn't want to soften my heart out of a moment of pity, nor did I want my son to get caught up in the complex emotions of adults. As the afternoon sun faded, I took him into the supermarket near home to buy some sundries. As soon as we got back, we saw piles of large boxes stacked in front of the small villa next door, as if someone were moving in. Nom and an uncle. Enin called out excitedly. I looked up, and sure enough, it was Pho Dinh Hac. He was standing in the front yard waving, smiling brightly as if we were long-time close neighbors.
If you need anything later, just come over and find me.
He spoke calmly as if everything was preordained. Truly shameless. I turned my face away, too angry to bother responding. The discomfort surged within me like an undercurrent all evening. Even though dinner was done and the kitchen cleaned, my chest still felt like a rock was lodged in it, unable to be swallowed or expelled. Lately, Pho Dinh Hac would come over whether he had a reason or not. Sometimes bringing toys for Enin, sometimes carrying bags of assorted fruits to the door. I accepted nothing, leaving it all lying neglected on the porch without a glance. Fruits left too long would rot, and he would automatically come clear them away. But the pile of toys and household items grew day by day, nearly forming a mountain at the entrance. On the 4th, Aunt Tin came over to visit and exploded when she saw the scene. New Aunt Tin, he's the boy's father. Spending money is natural. Why leave this stuff out here? I'm bringing it all inside. I had called to tell her about this on the 2nd. At that time, Tin was traveling. Now that she was back and saw the scene at the door, she went crazy, determined to teach him a lesson on my behalf. I quickly grabbed her hand to hold her back. No, don't cause trouble. Ding dong. Ding dong. The doorbell rang. At this hour, there was only one possibility: Pho Dinh Hac. I was sitting in the living room playing puzzles with Enin. Aunt Tin, with a face full of murderous intent, marched out to open the door. As soon as she saw his face, she rolled up her sleeves and cursed immediately without asking. New Aunt Tin, you bastard. Your face is too thick. Pho Dinh Hac recognized her. Back when he was pursuing me, he had crossed bridges to ask Aunt Tin for help many times. He tried to stay calm, his voice hoarse.
Before, I truly didn't know of Anand's existence. I didn't intend to.
New Aunt Tin, she already broke up with you. What are you coming here to bother her for? Slam. Aunt Tin didn't bother saying more, slamming the door shut with a bang, conveniently giving him a face full of dust. I sat inside, eyes lowered. Although I didn't go out to look, I heard every word outside clearly. I didn't understand why my heart stung as if pricked by small needles. Pho Dinh Hac persisted shamelessly for over half a month. Not a day went by without seeing him hovering around here. Aunt Eli had just returned to work, hesitant to ask directly, so today she sneakily pulled me to the back kitchen to ask in a whisper. New, Eli, is that young man and Anne's biological father? I shook my head, answering with an unchanged expression. His dad is dead. Aunt Eli sighed regretfully upon hearing that. New, Eli, wow. I see he isn't bad. Young, bright appearance, and if you look closely, he resembles the boy. Child, you should think for yourself a little. I didn't reply, nor did I want to think anymore. I had thought for myself once. That day the wind was very strong. I sat at the Civil Affairs Bureau from early morning, holding a file in my hand waiting for him. Waiting until noon, he didn't come. I didn't call or ask. Knowing his habit of wandering, I patiently waited a few more nights at home. In the end, I waited for nothing. Nom and in Mom, Uncle left things at the door again. Enin ran in from the outer door, holding a carton of milk in both hands, reporting cheerfully. I truly never wished for anything more than for my son to just stay in kindergarten all day. At least that way he wouldn't have to see that man every morning like this. At the end of the month, early in the morning, I took An into school. As soon as we reached the gate, we saw Pho Dinh Hac appearing on time. Still keeping a distance from us, far enough not to be chased away but not close enough to be scolded. I turned back to glare at him with a warning look, not forgetting to snap lightly. "How long do you plan to follow me?" He even chuckled, shrugging as if nothing was wrong.
I'm walking my path. You have no right to govern that. Unless you go register our marriage with me.
I rolled my eyes, wanting to smack him in the face with a slipper. Who wants to register a marriage with you? Stand in front of the Civil Affairs Bureau all day again? Keep dreaming in broad daylight. On the way back from the kindergarten, Pho Dinh Hac quickened his pace to run up beside me, looking hesitant as if he had something to say.
I probably have to return to a city for a few days.
Everyone has bad habits, and I'm no exception. Mine is self-torture. Hearing that, I still blurted out a question. Back there for what? His face clearly showed hesitation, as if hiding something.
There are company matters to resolve.
I'm not stupid either. What company matters? Just going to take care of his little white flower. I nodded calmly. Oh. Then I turned my face away, asking nothing more. I wasn't free enough to invite humiliation upon myself. That night I couldn't sleep. Afraid of moving and waking in, I could only lie still with my eyes closed, letting my consciousness drift in the darkness. Suddenly I remembered a sentence my father said years ago. I didn't remember clearly what it was about, just vividly recalled the scene that day. Father stood in front of me, throwing a glass cup hard onto the ground, shards scattered everywhere as he screamed at Mother. Nam, ba kai tin, hoi tuong, she's already sick to this point. Why do you still provoke her? Mother suddenly turned and pushed me down to the floor. Sharp glass shards pierced straight into my knee. She cried and screamed, her voice almost mad. Nu, mi kai tin, hoi tuong, the two of us put together aren't worth as much as her. Or should we just die, so you can be completely happy? Everything breakable in the living room that day was smashed. I lay still on the floor, not daring to cry out loud. Now in the darkness, I reached out to touch my knee. The scar from years ago had faded long ago, but the pain felt as if it had just returned, throbbing so clearly that my heart contracted with it. There are memories thought to be forgotten, but it turns out they are waiting for a sleepless night to return. Saturday morning, the sky wasn't yet fully light, and the baby was still fast asleep. I brought trouble upon myself again. I stood in front of Pho Dinh Hac's door, pressing the doorbell lightly. I wondered silently if he was still home. Surely he flew back to a city last night. With a gentle beauty like Shin Mingyu by his side, there certainly wasn't a shortage of things to be busy with. Just as I thought this, the door opened. He stood there, his face slightly surprised, then immediately lighting up.
A tin?
As if he couldn't believe I would come, he visibly rejoiced, opening the door wider to invite me in. I said nothing, nor did I understand why I stepped inside.
Have you had breakfast yet? Or let me cook noodles for you, okay?
I shook my head intending to refuse, but he had already turned into the kitchen. A bowl of steaming noodles was brought out, beautifully presented as always. I ate a few bites. The familiar taste immediately pulled me back to old days. Still as delicious as before. He didn't ask me why I came, just sat opposite, his eyes sparkling, looking at me, afraid that if he blinked, I would disappear. What time do you fly?
10 o'clock.
Oh. I lowered my head, silently slurping a few more spoons of broth. Something was choked in my chest, heavy and nameless. I should have questioned him if he was flying back to take care of Shin Mingyu again. I could have argued a storm, scolded him thoroughly. But stepping into the house, all those crazy thoughts vanished. I was afraid of becoming like my mother years ago, afraid of becoming a mad woman over an unworthy man. In the end, I just finished the bowl of noodles and left quietly. On days Pho Dinh Hac wasn't here, I often daydreamed wildly. Strangely, before he appeared, I hadn't dreamed for a long time. In the afternoon, picking up my son from school, the little one wore his small backpack and trotted over to hold my hand. Nam and Mom, the teacher assigned homework to submit a family photo. Family photo? I never had anything called a family photo throughout my entire childhood. When is it due, son? Nom, and next Monday. I suddenly remembered Pho Dinh Hac and immediately shook my head. I didn't want to take a photo with him. A simple thing like a family photo became a dilemma when it came to me. Raising a child was truly harder than I thought. I involuntarily thought of someone, Tong Yen, a friend of mine currently in Sea City. But if I asked him to take a family photo, how would I explain it to the kid? Never mind, let's see if Pho Dinh Hac is back first. I didn't expect anything, but still stood in front of his door pressing the bell. The first time no one answered, I pressed a second time, then a third. Still no movement. He wasn't back yet. I wasn't disappointed to a great extent, but clearly not happy either. Just stepping into the door, and then hugged my leg tight, looking up to ask innocently, Nom and Mom, when are we taking the picture? Let Mom call Uncle to ask first, okay? Hearing that, the baby beamed, jumping up and down like a little rabbit. I called Tong Yen, recounting the situation. He agreed without hesitation. Sunday, Tong Yen came to pick me and Anan up for the photo. In the morning, Anan was grinning ear to ear, yet before we went very far, his expression suddenly drooped. What's wrong, Anan? Nom, Anan, I'm a little sleepy. I didn't think much of it. It's normal for children to love sleep. Tong Yen drove while looking in the rearview mirror, smiling. Nom, Tong Yen, after shooting, let's take Anan to the amusement park nearby for a bit. The weather is nice today. That idea sounds very solid. I hadn't taken my son out to play in a long time either. Anan sat obediently in the safety seat, not saying a word, strangely quiet. I thought he was interested, but unexpectedly, after the shoot, Anan yawned several times in a row, then nestled into my lap mumbling, Nom, Anan, I want to go home to sleep. Tong Yen sighed softly, voice light as the wind. Nom, Tong Yen, it's okay. Let's go another time when we're free. Yeah. I felt a bit guilty. I originally intended to invite Tong Yen to lunch before going back. On the way back, I sat in the passenger seat, and Anan still obedient in the child's seat behind. The car was still a distance from home when I saw Pho Dinh Hac standing across the street. Naturally, he saw me too. Clearly his face darkened, cold as stone. I, however, felt happy inside. Yes, I knew I was being somewhat selfish, somewhat petty. But when he went to take care of Shinminyu, did he ever think of me and my son once? Nom, and an uncle. Anan suddenly cheered, his small face pressed against the glass, waving to call Pho Dinh Hac. Tong Yen had seen his photo in posts I made online, glanced over, and asked softly, Nom, Tong Yen, your ex? Yeah. I didn't deny it. The car stopped in front of the house. Tong Yen leaned over to look at me, half joking, half serious. Nom, Tong Yen, later, if there's an occasion for a family photo, remember to call me. I froze slightly. Wait until his car disappeared did I suddenly realize. So Tong Yen had always hidden a silent affection like that. Pho Dinh Hac stood not far from me, his burning gaze making my whole body uncomfortable. His face was still black as ink, clearly restraining emotions about to explode.
Kai-tin, let's talk.
Again. I told Anan to go inside first. I understood this tone of his too well. Before, every time he flew into a jealous rage, he started exactly like this. Pho Dinh Hac approached, his deep gaze locking onto me.
Who is that guy? You plan to find a replacement to be a stepfather for Anan?
I knew it. I looked up at him, voice not very happy. What does it have to do with you? His face got even worse, brows furrowing.
Anan is my son. You say this has nothing to do with me?
I could sense his patience had hit rock bottom. Just one more sentence from me, and he would definitely explode. But thinking of him going crazy, I found it funny. Who told you Anan is your son? I never admitted that to him.
Kai-tin.
He gritted his teeth, calling my name. What? If you have something to say it fast, otherwise I want to go in and sleep more. Before I could turn away, I was pulled hard into his arms. His hand circled the back of my head, hot lips pressing without hesitation to pry open my teeth. MMPH. You crazy. He was too strong. I struggled but couldn't escape. My breath was swallowed whole, the salty metallic taste of blood spreading through my mouth. Slap. As soon as he let go, my hand slapped him straight across the face. His pale left cheek turned bright red. Yet Pho Dinh Hac curled his lips in a smile. Worth it. Currently, Pho Dinh Hac looked more like his old self. During the recent reunion period, he was so obedient I almost thought he truly changed his nature. You psycho. I cursed a sentence, then turned intending to leave, but was pulled back hard by the hand. Let go. Of course, he didn't listen to me, seeming provoked by me but also finding it funny.
You took a family photo with that guy?
I was too angry to open my mouth.
If you want to take pictures with him, at least he should be present at home, right? What the hell are you and him to call it a family?
I tried to break free but was held tighter. A family photo can only be taken with me? Based on what? He and I broke up. Why does he say take it, and I have to take it? Pho Dinh Hac narrowed his eyes, voice deep with a hint of threat.
If you don't take it, I'll go inside and tell Anan I'm his dad.
Truly a bastard. This kind of thing he absolutely could do, I believed. Took it already. Now taking it again. How to explain? The corner of Pho Dinh Hac's lips lifted slightly, face clearly smug.
He knows I'm his dad.
I stood dead still for a moment before understanding what he was saying. Anan knows already?
From the first time we met, he already knew. Thanks to that best friend of yours always calling my name straight out to curse.
Pho Dinh Hac acted like if we didn't take the photo it wouldn't be over. Either way, Anan knew everything. So we ended up scheduling another photo in the afternoon. Since the father and son officially acknowledged each other, Pho Dinh Hac became increasingly blatantly encroaching. Even when Tin was home, he brazenly pushed the door to enter. Tin scolded him to his face, yet Pho Dinh Hac just proudly put his hands on his hips.
I came to visit my son, can I?
One afternoon, I dozed off in the living room. When I woke up, I caught his gaze staring unblinkingly at me. I almost startled off the sofa. I forbid you from just barging in like that next time.
All right.
Pho Dinh Hac didn't hesitate at all, conveniently and quick as lightning planting a kiss on my cheek. These tricks lately he did as often as eating meals. At first, I swung my hand to slap him painfully a few times, but he got addicted to the beating, becoming increasingly brazen with touching without any restraint.
You can beat me to death if you want.
His words were full of shamelessness. I went out to the living room to pour water. Pho Dinh Hac hugged me from behind again, his hands starting to move restlessly up and down. Pho Dinh Hac, don't push your luck.
Then hit me.
His breath swept past my ear, hot kiss sliding down my neck. My body seemed awakened by instinct and started trembling slightly. I was being stupid again. Anan wasn't home. My soul had drifted away for several hours. Pho Dinh Hac walked out wrapped in a towel after showering, hair still dripping water. The scene was exactly strictly handsome man after bath, with extremely strong visual damage.
Are you free tomorrow afternoon?
He asked as if just caring whether it would rain tomorrow.
What's up? Want to ask me to register our marriage?
I wasn't surprised at all. From the moment I started again with Pho Dinh Hac, I knew I would fall in love with him over and over again. But registering marriage? I refuse. Shin Mingyu's matter remains a thorn in my heart. If it isn't resolved, I won't agree to marry him. Even if I treat him as a high-end gigolo, I have enough money to pay that price.
Regarding Shin Mingyu, I gave her a sum, told her to pack up and leave.
Pho Dinh Hac said that sentence with an extremely smug face. Yeah, I had no special reaction. My cousin called to announce that matter weeks ago.
Huh.
He raised an eyebrow repeating it, tone slightly unhappy.
I didn't say it was because of her that I didn't want to register.
That reason exists truly, but it's not all. I just don't want to admit it.
Kaiten.
He dragged out my name again like he was whining. Now, not wanting to marry compared to when we were in love before, Pho Dinh Hac now without the binding paper was still easier to control. I didn't dare ensure how long he would keep this state after marriage. I remembered the sentences I heard. Break up then, Kaiten, don't make a scene anymore. Just thinking about it chilled my spine. The ghosts from childhood still hadn't ceased. If one day after marriage Shin Mingyu number 2, number 3 appeared, would he say divorce then at that time? Pho Dinh Hac and I kept vaguely associating like that for a whole year. Because I wanted Anan to grow up in an environment full of affection, for parent meetings at kindergarten, If my mood was stable, I would let him go along. And Anne's teacher called him my husband. I couldn't conveniently refute immediately, just gently correcting, Justin Anne's dad. In private, I still often explained clearly to Anin that his dad and I hadn't registered our marriage. Anin didn't care too much about marriage or not. To him, just having both dad and mom was already like other friends. Sometimes I got annoyed because his dad was clumsy at something, and Anin even defended his dad. Nom, and in even this you don't know, if it were me I'd ignore dad too. The matter hidden from Anin for a whole year finally was exposed. Pho Dinh Hac's parents found out, calling me several times just to speak up for their son. I took the opportunity to take Anin back to a city for a trip, not telling Pho Dinh Hac. I thought uncle and auntie would tell him, who expected total silence. During the day I took Anin to the Pho family home to play, returning to sleep at the Kai family home at night. Auntie gave me a jade bracelet, intending for me to keep it. I didn't accept. Spring passed, autumn came. In the blink of an eye Ted arrived again. Now every time I thought of being stood up when preparing to register marriage, I found it funny. Because now the person without a marriage certificate, losing a sense of security, was Pho Dinh Hac. This feeling was truly too satisfying. Auntin often teased me saying, "You trained Pho Dinh Hac into exactly a puppy already." When Anin was in 2nd grade, the ring I once left at the Pho family villa returned to my hand once again. Of course, not because he said a few sweet words that I immediately softened. Mainly practically considering, my son also needed a legitimate status. Moreover, Pho Dinh Hac proposed once every 3 days, annoying me to the point of wanting to lock the door permanently.